Damn, this wasn't supposed to happen.
A few days ago on December 1st, Thief the Dark Project had its 25th birthday, and in a complete surprise move, a fan campaign called the Black Parade released. This was in development nearly a decade and brought to you by some of the Thief scene's greatest fan mission creators. So, seeing that it was finally out, I figured I'd try out a mission or two, and then get back on schedule. And then the very first mission was a sprawling return to the city across multiple districts. This was a mission I spent hours on, and kept coming back to and kept finding new secrets. It also debuted the Dark Engine horse, which I find equally terrifying and charming. I already have a decent folder of unsettling horses, so that'll fit right in. And then the second mission was a huge manor which... and I kept playing missions until I... You know, I expect to be chased and hunted in Thief games, but in the Black Parade, there were parts where every fiber of my being did not want to be caught. In a year that was packed with some great releases for games, this was one of my favorites of the year, and it would feel wrong not to scream into the void about it. So first things first. To get the Black Parade, it's just on ModDB or the Looking Glass forums. On ModDB, you can also click to vote it as Mod of the Year, so I'll just pin that down in the comments. The page also links to a detailed blog which tells you how to install fan missions, which is good, but you can Wild West it and override your copy of Thief Gold with a zip and be just fine. You should install Thief X Lite first, which I did cover in the video about the base game. If you load up Thief Gold and get this menu, you're good to go. When you hit New Game, you are fast to stop remembering it's a mod. The mission briefings are fully here, the snippets from the lore, the illustrations of the city and its people, and then sometimes the production value goes that extra mile. There are 10 huge missions to beat, and the journey will be fully narrated. You won't be playing as Garrett this round, and the Black Parade is a prequel. Instead, you play as a Thieves Guild member named Hume, who's just been released from 7 years of hard prison labor.
I recognize nothing. These old streets that once seemed familiar are now darker and more twisted. And by the looks of it, the city has become even more dangerous than it was before.
Hume is not a master thief like Garrett. He's not a keeper or even had keeper training. He did discover a keeper light gem early in his career, which helped out a lot, but not enough to keep him out of prison. Hume had also taken contracts for brutal attacks and assassinations, and when he does avoid killing, it's only out of pure job efficiency. Compared to Garrett, he's a brutal, hardened criminal who will do just about anything to survive. He goes through a few clients during the campaign, including a few familiar ones. But also like the mainline games, you're mainly doing jobs and won't see the bigger picture until farther in. There is a unique twist on this because during the entire game, you're getting insights and information that apply across the entire Thief trilogy. As an example, you can learn more about the different sects of hammers and understand more how someone like Karis came to be in power. You might not be a keeper, but you can learn about them and their purpose. Learning the reasoning behind their operations actually helps to plug some holes in Thief Deadly Shadows. Again, it's incredible how fast my brain just threw out this was a mod and accepted everything written down here as canon. But when you consider this was a passion project made by Thief superfans over 7 years, then yeah, it makes perfect sense. It does a lot to establish and enhance the stories of later games, but also just nerd shit too. There's planting for new technologies and even architecture changes that would come in Thief 2. So really, First City Bank and Trust was just a building ahead of its time. There's the paperwork to prove it. And don't get me wrong, this fanservice-y kind of stuff isn't the focus of the story, but if you accept it into your heart, it adds something to the later games, and especially Deadly Shadows. The new looks of the setting it gives you, both through the writing and just being there, do make the world of Thief even more terrifying. Buildings scale up to countries when it comes to building walls upon walls to keep the terrors out. Keepers outright destroy knowledge of some creatures and lands to prevent madness. And don't you worry, you'll get plenty firsthand. Where Thief 2 took a more steampunk turn, we are fully back in the supernatural world of Thief the Dark Project, where it's normal to stumble across the undead, or a haunted painting, or creatures who dwell in the abyss whose form is hard to comprehend. You've still got hammer technology, rudimentary electricity, and other gizmos that don't always work right, but now they can break in new and more dynamic ways. Holy shit, I lucked out. There are a few new mechanics, not a whole lot, and some are alterations of Thief 2's. You have disruptor grenades that can temporarily shut down cameras and other electronics, smoke bombs for driving off little creatures or making an escape, invisibility potions but nerfed to not be a pure get out of jail free card like Thief 2, and strength potions for carrying more faster and hitting harder. I guess you can also slide banners across instead of cutting them down with a sword to peek behind them. The point is you don't have much in the way of new toys, but Thief doesn't need them. They gave you such a tight and focused tool set that there's not a whole lot you could add without breaking the formula. What they have added is lots and lots of new challenges to overcome. There's a monster menagerie of new creatures and undead, and many will only appear one time. Human guards could be fully armored and immune to conventional weapons, or use crossbows, halberds, all sorts of new stuff. On top of all the weapons and equipment they have new behaviors as well. Like some NPCs will relight torches or clean moss off the floor. What worked before can usually still work, but they'll throw a wrench into your plans just enough to keep you on your toes more. And there's no better example than the missions and maps themselves. The scale the Black Parade operates on is gigantic. If this mod had a tagline, it should be, "It keeps going," because you'll find yourself saying that a lot playing these missions. But what kicks ass is the design isn't convoluted or tedious for no reason. There were missions I hoped just went on forever, and it's because the pacing is so incredible and just refined and improved from Thief proper. Everyone has caveats with the trilogy where, oh, this felt stale or this was clearly rushed. These are levels you spend hours in, and when you think you've found your new favorite mission, you suddenly get a new one. And there have been great fan missions before, or campaigns like Thief 2X, but in comparison, the levels here have been slow cooking for years, and the results speak for themselves. To give a pacing example, you have the Bone Horde in Thief. Your insertion point is a tiny little crypt area, and you move on from there. The Black Parade's first tomb has a city district above it. All the locals are fully voice acted, and they added lots of new animations for little interactions. You can take a good amount of time to explore the surface before descending down. It's a density that would make computers at the time explode, but you can do it now. So you get to go through a quiet urban area before finding the tomb, and the tomb will keep going, and going, and going. But it's not static or repetitive, you keep cracking open new areas that are unique. You're getting new challenges like avoiding the light or avoiding an unspeakable monster. And I wouldn't reduce it down to just this is the Bone Horde 2.0, because there's such a greater variety of challenges and the level design is so much denser. The tomb's area can open up and then collapse back in, you crawl through a tunnel for a while and end up in somewhere completely different. The missions keep going, but they keep rewarding you for it too. And having the extended areas before the main event adds a lot to the tension. One mission has you trying to find the tomb's entrance in a forest at night. And there are a lot of signs that this forest is probably going to send you to the ICU. So you're already feeling on edge, uncertain, and lost, and then the entrance is a big hole in the ground that just has nothing in it. You're in the abyss, and it handles elemental challenges way better than Mage Towers could ever dream of. And no matter how awful it gets, in the back of your mind you're still thinking, I have to go through that forest again. And when you do, there's nothing like it. Having so much room to maneuver before the missions really changes the feeling of the game. You had some like Life of the Party that gave you a ton of room, but here you so often have way more agency. Because sure, there are a lot more ways of breaking in than ever before, but they've added so much to the game that you're not sure what kinds of obstacles might be waiting for you. One of my favorites for this is the second mission. This is a walk through the city and then break into the Rich Manor mission, which Thief has had plenty of before. It's by the Agrippa Meat Market, and we'll hear more from Agrippa soon. In the case of the Haleford Manor, it dominates the whole neighborhood. Plenty of guards patrol the streets and the sewers, which it has plenty of control over. Your map is pretty amazingly detailed for this one too. There's a detailed map of the basement, the first floor, and the second floor. There are notes for sewer entrances, and only the second floor is kind of vague and only in a few rooms. You can try your hand exploring around town since there are plenty of sewer connections. It's just finding the right one that's less guarded, or try your hand at the roof, or break in from the front when a local starts drinking from the Lord's fountain.
Hey, you over there! Halt! We'll have to do better than that, Tapper! Someone think this is funny?
The basement has plenty of guards and a music class ongoing, but the first floor is extremely ornate and filled with artwork. There are fashion mannequins, a bar and lounge area. It's actually a more vibrant estate than most others, with plenty of guards and servants working around. The map wasn't a trick either, it's incredibly reliable and accurate. It's when you enter those few unknown rooms that things begin to change. The Lord is an eccentric with ties to pagans, and he displays all of this very openly. I mean, from his very front door he's not hiding the influence, but it does make the shift in architecture easier to creep up on you. As you get deeper into the house, you go below the basement. You go below the sewer. And the house keeps extending downward, the architecture getting more bizarre, and traps appearing here and there. So the obvious thing to think is, oh, this is the sword again. The treasure even floats around in the air like the sword. The thing is, the sword is fairly quick in letting you know it'll be weird, and in context, you eventually learn why parts of this place are so reality-breaking. Constantine's manor was a death trap honeypot. This is something practical to somebody. There are parts that have obvious uses, but these get more eldritch and disturbing the farther in you go. Why is the bottom opening into a misty black abyss? In Thief, it's a huge turning point and sets up everything. Here, It's Mission 2. We've gone through pagan magic before, and that might not be all that's being invoked here. I'm positive there are secrets I still haven't found here, but that could just be because the atmosphere is so hostile and oppressive that it makes me want to believe that. Hume's story will have him dealing with a new kind of supernatural force, but they trickle these to you throughout the entire game. What is the Black Parade? Is there a young boy in the basement? One of those questions will be answered. Thief has had missions I've disliked or outright hated, but this is nothing but home runs. The only weakness I can think of is that it is so deep-end, a newcomer to the series will absolutely drown. The creators assume you've played one of the first two games, if not both, which you really should if you haven't already. This can have some of the same old Thief bugs or AI breaking down, but it is a monument in making gigantic, well-paced, intricate, and engaging levels. Not just the Thief scale either, I mean, this is some of the best stuff in games, period. It might have come out too late to make ModDB's mod of 2023, maybe. But somehow, 25 years after the first game and, I think Thief hit its high point. It engages you, it's tense, it's scary, it's silly. I could not stop playing it, and it's free. And that's my endorsement. I have sleep to catch up on, so I'll get back on schedule. Any plans for Rogue Trader coverage? I would think not for at least a year. And that has nothing to do with the game itself. Most RPGs like that, I usually just hold off a year. Because they're such big games, they have bugs, they have performance issues, there's just stuff all over with them. I broke my rule for that with Baldur's Gate 3, and I started paying for that in Act 3 when it was really bugging down, but that's better now, but again, I just try to wait for those games if I can. Do I miss diegetic interfaces? Yeah, definitely, but there's still a good middle ground to find. In general, games have been going for minimalism a lot more, which I'm not sure is a purely artistic decision or an efficiency one. I'd like it to be readable and usable, but it doesn't have to be boring. But when you're making a game, that first part is the more important one. Black Parade question, and yes, I was not expecting that connection to show up. I didn't think it would be so drastic. It completely threw me off and has made me appreciate that character a lot more, so that was another great certified Black Parade surprise.
Let me walk you to your bedchamber. Keep your dirty paws off my silk tunic, you shriveled, big and smelly, tough and anarchist